it's just hard, no matter how you slice it. And the more we try to speed up by like getting ahead and all that sort of thing, the more that becomes ubiquitous, and the more that the cycle just keeps going. That's what the cycle of tech does. And so just like, the cars replace buggies and all that, I think AI is going to replace stuff. So that's a huge thing that's going to happen.
Yeah, and what you brought to light too is a lot of the change of perceived value and what people are going to see as important and valuable today, or what they see as important and valuable today, in 5-10 years are going to be seen different in different light.
Yes.
Different types of skills are going to be more important. And as you take a snapshot in time today and think about those that are going through their journey of entrepreneurship or their journey of business leaderships, or their maybe even an employee just trying to figure out their way towards success, and under their definition, are there some things that they could leverage AI in their scenario today to help them in a way that I think back to you when you were young, you picked up a book, right?
Yep.
And you read this book and you said, okay, here's some things that I need to know to, take this next step. And, maybe there's a situation where they're not going to be picking up the book, but they're going to be getting into ChatGPT or something like that.
Yeah. I would say a few things. I actually think one of the number one skills to learn is just social skills. And here's the reason for that. That's the one thing that AI cannot replace. Have you noticed that if you, there have been so many reminder apps built and scheduling apps built and organize your calendar for you, AI apps built and everything. And they haven't fixed the problem of people not knowing what they're supposed to be working on, or, forgetting to work on stuff. None of them have fixed the problem. You have the most advanced calendar app that the world has ever developed on your phone right now, and you still forget stuff and don't get stuff done and miss deadlines and all that stuff, right? It's just not a problem that can fully be solved by those sorts of things. But people perform in a lot of cases based on social responsiveness, right? So if you set a meeting with me, we set a meeting today, right? I showed up to that meeting because I knew that there was another person there. I have respect for that person. I'm thinking about the fact that they're going to be there. They're going to be expecting me. I don't want them to be disappointed in me. I'm stressed about being late, all that sort of thing, because of that social accountability. Social accountability drives so many projects. It drives so many ideas, all that sort of thing. If a bot had been waiting for me here, I wouldn't show up. I would have been like, I'm sorry, I got to get these proposals done. I wouldn't be here. And so a lot of project managers use social accountability, right? And developers get frustrated with that, right? They're like, we don't need a meeting for this. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you get in a meeting and not only do you figure some stuff out in the meeting, but also you have that social accountability of like, oh man, Wednesday's coming around. We have the team meeting. Like, I better get my stuff together before then. It really drives a lot of productivity, and people just do not respect or care about bots in the same way. And so I would say, social skills are just as important in the post-AI age, because people care about people. People are not out there watching battle bots. People are out there watching the Super Bowl because they care about the story, right? And so being able to tell a good story, being able to network, being able to connect with people, being able to solve problems with people, all of those social skills are just as important, if not more important, because the rest of the work, the value is going down, right? That's still very important. The other thing I will say is definitely just learning to use the tools and figuring out what they can do, what they can't do, what the edge cases are, being good at putting the tools together. Like, what if I use, ChatGPT to generate a prompt for Midjourney and things like that, right? Like being able to mess with the tools to see what's available, that is really, really important. So.
No, and thanks for unpacking that.
Yeah.
I've heard you talk about social accountability before, and even the example of fitness and tying those together about having a fitness coach. I think about that even in my personal or professional life with hiring a business coach. It's the same thing. Like, because I have to meet with the business coach every week, like I'm going to do the things. Otherwise that business coach is no longer going to be my business coach,
Yes.
right? He's got certain standards, you're out, right?
Totally.
So in those types of holding standards and doing it in a personal way where it is a community or you're, have that social accountability is an incredible skill. I'm definitely going to have to figure out how to improve upon mine going forward. So thanks for unpacking that a little bit.
Yeah. The other thing I will say is that I think there's sort of this there's this expectation of there to be a call to action, right? Like what's the call to action to oh, how do we use AI? How do we leverage AI and all that, right? It's either going to be one of two things. Either standards are going to develop and we're going to start to follow them, right? So for instance, a standard that is developing with AI is you put a chatbot on your site. The chatbot has an AI built in. It's usually built on OpenAI or its API or something like that. And it has a bunch of information about your company so it can answer common questions. Mm-hmm. You keep that database up to date, and then it passes you off to a human if there's trouble. That's an AI standard that's emerging, right? That everyone's starting to kind of copy and emulate. You can do that with your business pretty easily, mm-hmm. and there you go. But so there's things that are emerging as business standards or ways of doing things that you can implement. But most of what AI is going to do is yet to be determined, right? And we have as little ability to conceptualize and visualize that as a 16th century peasant has of imagining updating an SSL certificate on your iPhone, right? There's so many layers of abstraction that exist because of the digital world, and that those layers of abstraction are going to go so much further than we can imagine right now. So I have no way of telling you what's coming. I have no way of predicting it. I have no way of understanding it. It is going to be so abstracted out that there's no way of knowing.
But that excites you, right? And you have the opportunity to step into that as something like, hey, this is something I'm afraid of, just kind of back to some of the themes throughout the conversation. This is something that, I'm afraid of. I'm just going to ignore it or push it aside and pretend like it's not there. This is something that we need to learn, test. It's not always going to work right the first time. We're going to learn what didn't work more than maybe what did work. And that's maybe some encouragement from your story when it comes to tying things together there of get in, play with, test, and understand.
Yeah. Well, I think so there's definitely the doomsday scenarios with AI, right? And I have spent a lot of time panicking and being depressed about those doomsday scenarios and all that. And I actually wrote out what are my options, right? My option is basically either someone's going to achieve AGI, right? Someone will. AGI means, to me, everybody's got a different definition, but to me, AGI means an artificial general intelligence that is more intelligent than any human alive on any subject, that can do a better job at any intellectual task than any human. I don't care about consciousness. I don't care about sentience because I just don't think those are definable. That's not definable. So I don't care whether it's sentient or not. If it acts like a duck and walks like a duck, it's a duck. I don't care. But we will get AGI. That's just the reality, right? Will people care about that bot and its opinions and all that as much as other people? I don't think so, because I think biologically we're hardwired to care about humans. But I've thought okay, there's a lot of disaster scenarios with AGI, right? It decides to take everything over and kills us all. It gets bored with us and just leaves and goes to outer space. And then we're like, oh, we have no tech. See ya. It gets controlled maybe by a single entity that probably will be evil with all the absolute power that corrupts them or whatever, right? Or it just there's all these doomsday scenarios. And I've spent a lot of time agonizing about those things, right? And being really afraid of that. And I realized okay, well, what can I control? So nuclear weapons were, I mean, we thought the world was going to be destroyed, right? But guess what? We all, I can't believe this happened, but we all kind of have come to an agreement on safety standards. We've formed alliances and treaties, and you know, I'm alive. I'm not worried about it at this particular moment, you know, which is pretty cool.